Beloved is a novel by Toni Morrison, published in 1987. The novel falls under the canon of American literature and is written in the tradition of postmodernism while being a family drama, historical fiction, ghost story, gothic horror story, and Bildungsroman. Beloved is set in a small country house of 124 Bluestone in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1873. It flashes back to the Sweet Home plantation in Kentucky and the prison in Alfred, Georgia in the early 1850s. The novel is from the third-person omniscient anonymous narrator focusing heavily on the black character's thoughts while also at times portraying the white character's perspective. The fragmented circular narrative switches from the third-person limited or omniscient narrator to the first-person perspective of characters to showcase their perspective through the stream of conscious monologues and chorus. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Beloved, from 1855 to 1873, is intertwined with the historical backdrop of the American Civil War and the Fugitive Slave Acts of 1793 and 1850. These acts, part of the Compromise of 1850, empowered Southern slave owners to pursue and reclaim their escaped slaves, considering them as property, even in free states. Although the novel encompasses periods before and after the official abolition of slavery in the United States, Morrison explores motherhood within the context of slavery and freedom. The inspiration for Beloved stemmed from a true event involving Margaret Garner, an escaped slave born at Maplewood Plantation in Boone County, Kentucky. In 1856, Garner, her husband, and their 4 children fled to Cincinnati, crossing the Ohio River into Ohio, a free state. Despite reaching a safe haven, they were apprehended within hours by their master and federal marshals. Desperate to prevent her children from returning to slavery, Garner slit her 2-year-old daughter's throat and injured the other children before being recaptured. Her story was first documented in the American Baptist newspaper in 1856 under the title A Visit to the Slave Mother Who Killed Her Child. Beloved starts in 1873 with 124 was spiteful, full of a baby's venom. The women in the house knew it and so did the children. This refers to the house at 124 Bluestone Road on the outskirts of Cincinnati, which is haunted by the ghost of a dead baby. Seeth, a former slave, lives there with her daughter Denver, and they've become accustomed to the ghost's presence. However, Seeth's sons, Howard and Bug Lar, have left because of the ghost, and baby Suggs, Denver's grandmother and Seeth's mother-in-law, has passed away. Paul D., another former slave who used to work at Sweet Home Plantation with Seeth, arrives at 124, banishes the ghost, and moves in. Just as they adjust to this new dynamic, a mysterious woman named Beloved appears at 124. She doesn't remember where she's from but insists that her name is Beloved. She's unable to care for herself and begins living with the family, asking unsettling questions that stir up painful memories. Seeth and Denver provide for her needs as if she were a child. Seeth starts answering Beloved's strange questions, which reveal details of their past only she knows. Denver even believes that Beloved is the ghost of her deceased sister. Paul D. becomes increasingly uncomfortable with Beloved's presence and eventually shifts to the cold house. Beloved convinces him to sleep with her, which triggers past memories. Stampede, a former slave, shows Paul D. a newspaper extract about Seeth murdering her infant daughter and escaping hanging. Since Paul D. cannot read, he initially denies that the story is about Seeth. However, when he confronts Seeth, she admits the truth: she killed her baby out of love, to spare her from a life of slavery. Paul D. is horrified by this revelation and leaves 124, likening Seeth's actions to those of an animal. Part 2 starts with 124 was loud. Stampede could hear it even from the road. Stampede, feeling responsible for the tension between Paul D. and Seeth, decides to visit 124 in an attempt to reconcile. However, as he approaches the house, he hears peculiar voices emanating from within. Despite his efforts, he hesitates to enter and returns multiple times without taking action. Finally, on his last attempt, he peers through a window and glimpses Beloved, but he struggles to comprehend what he sees. Inside 124, Seeth finds solace in her life with Denver and Beloved. The narrative shifts between the scenes of Seeth cooking in a restaurant and spending time with the girls and her recollections of Sweet Home. She no longer shies away from discussing her traumatic past. Beloved claims to have come from the afterlife, and Seeth believes she is the reincarnation of her deceased baby, returned to her. Seeth attempts to justify her past actions to Beloved, explaining that she killed her out of love. Meanwhile, Paul D., while sitting on a church porch, ponders the failures of the escape plan involving the Sweet Home men, including Hallie, Seeth's husband, and Seeth and her children. Stampede approaches him and expresses regret for revealing the truth about Seeth. Part 3 begins with 124 was quiet. Denver, who thought she knew all about silence, was surprised to learn hunger could do that, quiet you down and wear you out. Seeth left the restaurant, and the household is struggling with hunger. Their scant savings have been depleted by purchases of ribbons and colorful clothing that please Beloved. Denver is neglected as Seeth devotes all her time to Beloved. Denver resolves to seek employment and leaves the house in 12 years and informs Lady Jones, her former teacher, of the situation. Concerned neighbors leave food on a stump near the house. Word spreads about the mysterious arrival of Beloved at 124. A group of women, led by Ella, a former agent of the Underground Railroad, resolve to liberate Seeth and Denver in an attempt to exorcise the Beloved's ghost out of the house by singing a song. Denver's employer, Mr. Bodwin, approaches the house to fetch her for work. Mistaking him for her former master, Seeth attacks him with an ice pick, but Denver and the women intervene, leading to Beloved's sudden disappearance, never to return. Seeth's mental state deteriorates, and she resigns herself to death, just as baby Suggs had done. Meanwhile, Denver secures a promising job and sets her sights on a college education. Paul D. reappears in Seeth's life, expressing his desire for a future together and motivating her to regain her strength and mobility. With the departure of Beloved, the residents of 124, supported by their community, can finally break free from the shackles of tragedy and embrace the prospect of a brighter future. Throughout the novel, the Fragmented Flashbacks reveal Seeth's southern upbringing with an unknown African mother and span 18 years until her escape from slavery at Sweet Home Farm. At 13, she becomes the property of the Garners, owners of Sweet Home, where slavery is comparatively less brutal. She marries another slave, Hallie, bearing 2 sons, Howard and Buglar, and an unnamed daughter, and is pregnant with her 4th child when she runs away. After Mr. Garner's demise, Mrs. Garner, seeking assistance, turns to her sadistic brother-in-law, known as a schoolteacher. Seeth resolves to flee, sending her children ahead to her mother-in-law's refuge in Cincinnati. The schoolteacher's nephews assault Seeth in the barn while Hallie witnesses, leading to his decline into madness. Meanwhile, Paul D. faces degradation, wearing an iron bit. After Seeth's report of the assault to Mrs. Garner, the schoolteacher brutally whips her. Despite severe punishment, Seeth escapes but collapses from exhaustion and is found and aided by Amy Denver, a white girl. Seeth names her newborn Denver in gratitude. Seeth is assisted by Amy and Stampede in her escape across the Ohio River towards baby Suggs' home. After only 28 days of freedom, Seeth's old master tracks her down. In a desperate attempt to prevent her children from enduring slavery again, she flees with them to the woodshed and attempts to kill them, succeeding in ending the life of her baby girl by slitting her throat with a handsaw. Seeth later ensures that the baby's headstone bears the name Beloved. Subsequently, the sheriff arrests Seeth and Denver, but a group of white abolitionists, led by the Bodwins, campaigns for her release. Seeth is rejected by her former master, who deems her unfit to serve, prompting her return to House 124, where baby Suggs plunges into depression. Meanwhile, Paul D. had traumatic experiences in a chain gang in a Georgia prison for blacks before he escaped with a group of slaves. His journey north eventually leads him back to Seeth's doorstep in Cincinnati years later. Let's analyze Beloved. Beloved sheds light on the physical, emotional, and psychological brutality of slavery, highlighting how its horrors continue to afflict former slaves even after they gain freedom. The oppressive system forced Hallie to buy baby Suggs' freedom, leaving himself indebted to Mr. Garner and eventually driving him insane. After Seeth escapes Sweet Home, she is haunted by the lingering effects of slavery, whether through traumatic memories, physical scars, or the relentless pursuit of her former owner, who tries to reclaim her. The brutality Seeth endured under slavery led her to commit infanticide to spare her children from experiencing the same suffering. This act highlights the twisted reality of slavery, where a mother's love manifests in a desperate attempt to save her children from a life of torment. Schoolteacher, representing the dehumanizing views of slave owners, sees slaves as subhuman, valuing them only for their economic worth and treating them like animals. He instructs the boys, "I told you to put her human characteristics on the left, her animal ones on the right." His nephew's vile act of stealing Seeth's breast milk further dehumanizes her, reducing her to the status of livestock. When Seeth kills her child, schoolteacher views her behavior as animalistic, attributing it to his nephew's excessive punishment rather than understanding her desperation. But now she'd gone wild, due to the mishandling of the nephew who'd overbeat her and made her cut and run. Schoolteacher had chastised that nephew, telling him to think, just think, what would his own horse do if you beat it beyond the point of education? Even Paul D struggles to understand Seeth's actions, emphasizing her humanity by telling her she has 2 feet, not 4. Slavery's destructive impact extends to family bonds, with Seeth barely remembering her own mother, a common plight as children were often sold away from their families. Both Seeth and Paul D cope with their past traumas, oscillating between suppression and silence. Seeth's isolation from the community allows her to avoid confronting her painful history. The ghost of her deceased daughter physically manifests the suppressed rage and sorrow, shaking the house and disturbing its contents, serving as a constant reminder of Seeth's fear of re-enslavement. Paul D, haunted by his experiences at Sweet Home and the Chain Gang, suffers from PTSD. The iron bit he was forced to wear dehumanized him, and to cope, he metaphorically encloses his heart in a tin box to lock away his traumatic memories. He would keep the rest where it belonged, in that tobacco tin buried in his chest where a red heart used to be. Its lid rusted shut. Post-slavery, he struggles to find a place to settle, with House 124 being one of the few places he attempts to make a home. Paul D's disconnection from his own identity is so profound that he sometimes cannot discern whether the screams he hears are his own. His sense of manhood and self-worth is deeply shaken, leading him to question his value as a person. Stamp Pate observes that slavery not only dehumanized the enslaved but also morally corrupted the enslavers, making them crueler than they intended to be, become changed and altered them. Made them bloody, silly, worse than even they wanted to be. Toni Morrison captures the voices of 60 million and more individuals historically denied the power of freedom and speech, reclaiming a history lost to both repressed memories and enforced silence. At its heart, Beloved is a story about a mother's bond with her children, focusing on Seeth and the unnamed daughter she kills, who later appears as Beloved. Seeth's escape from Sweet Home is driven by her fierce determination to reunite with her children, nurse her baby, and safely deliver Denver. Likewise, Hallie works tirelessly to buy the freedom of his mother, baby Suggs, before seeking his own liberation. The harsh reality of slavery often separated mothers from their children, as seen in baby Suggs, who lost all but one of her children to distant plantations. Seeth's mother, consumed by field labor, had another woman care for Seeth, leaving them little time to bond. The novel contrasts the powerful force of motherhood with the brutal constraints of slavery, which made it nearly impossible for slave mothers to form strong emotional ties with their children due to the constant threat of separation. Paul D reflects to love anything that much was dangerous, especially if it was her children she had settled on to love. The horrific scene where Seeth is held down and deprived of her breast milk highlights the cruel theft of her ability to nurture her children. Faced with the prospect of her children being enslaved, Seeth chooses to kill them, an act that, on the surface, seems contrary to maternal instincts. Witnesses like Stamp Pate, the schoolteacher and his nephews are bewildered by Seeth's seemingly monstrous act, but it represents an intense expression of maternal love. Seeth believes death is a kinder fate than the suffering of slavery. It also signifies her refusal to be a mother under the oppressive institution of slavery, which denied her the chance to be a real mother. This decision turns her into a social outcast, and she struggles with guilt and a strained relationship with her surviving children, who, born into freedom, cannot understand her actions. By the novel's end, Seeth's bond with Denver begins to heal. Denver steps up to care for Seeth, recognizing the harm Beloved caused her. This role reversal, where the daughter nurtures the mother, symbolizes Seeth finally receiving the maternal care she was deprived of by slavery. Now let's look at the important symbolism of Beloved. Water is a powerful symbol of escape and freedom throughout Beloved. Nan highlights Seeth's mother waiting in the flooded indigo field as a representation of escape. Paul D and the Chain Gang use the opportunity of a flood caused by rainwater to escape their confinement. To flee slavery, Seeth crosses the Ohio River, a boundary separating free territory from slave states. Denver's birth on the river, as her mother's water breaks, symbolizes her liberation from the womb. Similarly, Beloved's emergence from the river signifies her liberation from death's confines. as she describes herself as coming from the other side, imbuing the Ohio River with significance as a border between the earthly realm and the afterlife. After Seed's murder of Beloved, Stampede attempts to uplift Baby Suggs, who is consumed by depression. Baby Suggs reveals to him her desire to retreat to her bed and contemplate colors, which she perceives as innocuous elements or something harmless in the world. For her, colors, such as blue and yellow, symbolize peace and harmlessness. Blue. That don't hurt nobody. Yellow neither. These colors serve as Baby Suggs' coping mechanism, offering solace amidst the ordeals. In Beloved, red signifies both life and death. Before her passing, Baby Suggs ponders about a variety of colors, yet she never reaches red. This avoidance stems from its association with the blood of the deceased baby, representing pain and death. Pink is the color of Seed's baby's headstone. Beloved, on the other hand, is drawn to a vibrant, fiery shade, with touches of red accentuating her presence. Red imagery surrounds Beloved, from being bathed in red blood to her fascination with a cardinal and her ability to stir emotions within Paul D. His red heart symbolizes his capacity for emotion. When Paul D encounters a pool of red light upon entering 124, it evokes a sense of foreboding, prompting him to question what kind of evil you got in here. The red rooster of Mister's comb symbolizes masculinity to Paul D, yet it also embodies the oppression of slavery and the freedom he yearns for but feels denied. Hope you comment and subscribe for more videos.